Hello, welcome to the next lunch and learn session for the Tampa chapter of the IIBA. Sharp-eyed viewers may notice that part 9 should come before part 10, but this is actually a redo of a presentation, the same material I did for the IIBA folks in Philadelphia. So it was good information. I'll take just the new bits and share it with you, and hopefully we'll get through it fairly quickly. Just so you know, whenever you see an orange link on the slides, that is a link to additional material that's on my website. You can find these slides and other information on my website at rpchurchill.com, and in this case it's under portfolio and presentations, and you'll find links to slides, videos, and whatever, and they're always available. So I've done simulation of various kinds for a long time, in a lot of different industries for many different applications and in a whole bunch of different architecture. Um, Basically, what that taught me to do with respect to business analysis is come up with a kind of standardized way of attacking problems, and it matches up with what's in the BABOK. So the intended use is identifying the actual business problem, and then the conceptual model is finding out what's going on. Assumptions and so on is finding out what parts of what's going on you have information for and can get information for, and what you need to consider and not consider, and the risks and impacts for doing everything. Then you deal with data, then you deal with the requirements, you identify what your customers need and the solution needs. Then you deal with the design, that's the detailed to be state. Then you go ahead and implement and test and hopefully accept everything or get the customers to accept it. And that's all wrapped in a project management wrapper. If we want to look at that in a simplified way, we'll just say, what do we need to do? What's going on now? That's the as is state. How are we going to identify and deal with data? Uh, what do we need to do to solve a problem for the customers? um, Propose a solution for the customers, implement it, and test it. So, just for clarification, I'll say that the engagement is the iterative, cyclical process of solving the customer's problem. The system is whatever operations or product or whatever we're going to analyze for the customers. We're either going to create it or build it. And the solution is the actual change we make, either the modification or the new system that we build or the new product. So if we want to get clarification for what's going on when we as BA see ourselves in the middle of it, especially if things are not made clear to you, here are a long series of questions you can ask to try to figure out what's going on. The first thing to notice is that if you look at the steps in the engagement here, all of them happen. You as a BA might not see them all, but they all happen. And the more everybody knows about the entire flow and scope of the process, the better off they'll be and the better they'll be able to work together. If you do it properly, a lot of the problems practically solve themselves simply because everybody has a better, more complete understanding of what each other needs. Specific expertise is always good, but you can't apply it if the understanding of all parties is not clear and agreed to. So again, if you don't know what's going on across the entire process, that's going to lead to confusion. A lot of BAs may be asked only to be in the requirements part, to talk to business users or whatever and figure out what they need and then write requirements for the implementers, and that's all they do, and that's a okay place to start for new BAs, but at the end of the day, you want to be able to participate in every phase of the project. The more you learn about implementation, test, design, discovery, data collection, business, and so on, the stronger you'll be. Another way in which your efforts might be limited is if you're in a large organization that's doing a lot of things in parallel. For example, if you have a number of Scrum and Kanban teams that are working in parallel, either as on different parts of the same thing or on totally different but related things, and different groups might be drawing from shared backlogs or only their own backlog. Um, you may struggle to really get a complete picture of what's going on. In parallel to that, you may have waterfall efforts going on, and you may have continuous bug fixing and triage activities going on. So if you're a BA in only one of those threads and all are legitimate, if you don't understand what's going on in the other threads, that could be confusing and lead to frustration. So the more people know what everybody else is doing, not only from the beginning of the project to the end in your thread, but across all the threads, the better off you'll be. Another thing to understand is the type of solution that you're dealing with. As far as IT architectures, there are a wide range of different solution types. And depending on what you're doing and what problem you're trying to solve, and how your designers are thinking about solving it, your work could look very different. So, that is one factor to understand that'll clear things up for you. There are all kinds of physical and information processes associated with the specific industry you're working in. And so, knowing the details of each industry will help clarify things for you. Knowing whether you're working on a process or a product, which means an ongoing series of steps or just a thing, may clarify stuff a little bit. And also whether, and I visit this concept quite often, whether you're changing something that currently exists or whether you're creating something entirely new. The final thing you might want to think about is how big the problem is. Small problems or can be very different from big problems with a lot of different things going on that all have to be integrated. Then you also have different ways of running projects. Waterfall, where in theory the steps more or less flow through one to the other. Agile and Scrum can work differently. Hybrid things can work a little bit differently. So if you have a clear picture of what your management schema is, then things will become more clear. And the same thing again, whether you're building something new or improving something that already exists. So let's get to our questions. Question number one is: are there champions for the effort? Who's driving the process and what do they want? How much do they know and how much do they inform their people? How much are they telling you? And the better they communicate with you, the better off you'll both do. Also, how much do they empower their people? And we'll get to that in a little more depth. So, how much is the effort empowered to look at or change? If you're given a very limited mission and a very limited list of people to talk to, or if they only made the introductions that say stick to this, then that's one thing. And sometimes that's legitimate. And if you can investigate more widely, that may be helpful to you and everyone. Do you know what the whole scope and scale of the effort is? Again, we hit this from many different directions. Do you know what the boundaries are and the limitations? The other thing you have to find out, and you'll learn this on the fly, It's whether managers and other stakeholders will actually adjust what they do based on your findings and feedback. So if they're not willing to consider recommendations or changes, then you're not gonna get too far. So these are things that can happen to BAs for sure. How much do you know as a BA? And there are many aspects to this, your particular business, the people you're working with and that you meet, the industry that you're in, the tools you use, what other people are doing, what competitors are doing, what kinds of data and the nature of it that are available, how much you know about being a BA in general, and so on. How comfortable are you in talking to people, making things happen on your own, and making recommendations? Because I've been in every role for so long, you cannot stop me from seeing things and seeing solutions and recommending solutions and changes. But if you're closer to the beginning of your career, you might not see as much or feel as comfortable recommending so much, and maybe you'll just want to be a go-between, which is fine. But the goal, I think, is always to know more and be able to do more. And your persistence and stick to itiveness are important in any job, as well as flexibility and adaptability. Now, the other thing that'll happen or that'll affect your work is how much does everyone else know? How much do the programmers know, the data analysts know, the designers know? How much the customers know about what's possible? You have to find that out too. In support of that, you can have internal and external communities to practice. We're in an external community of practice right now that hopefully helps make us better BAs. I know doing this helps me, and I hope it helps you. There's formal and informal training of many kinds. I would generally recommend that people revisit material on their own in some capacity throughout their careers. It's very helpful. The next question to ask are you trying to solve specific problems and make little changes, or are you trying to really re-engineer an entire system or apply some whole new technology and really make a large improvement or a quantum leap? Or are you doing something in between? The other question to ask is, does everyone know what the goal is? Sometimes you may start off doing something small and you'll see an opportunity to do something big. The next question to ask is, what's inspiring the effort? sometimes you are trying to improve things you're already good at. For example, if you have a particular solution type, you might want to try to find new problems to apply that to. Similarly, if you have a particular problem that you've identified, you'll look for solutions to fix it. There may be opportunities that arise from new technologies or methods that you learn about, and threats are external things and sometimes internal things that could cause you problems. So if you take those four items together, that's a standard SWOT analysis. The other thing you have to deal with is when new people come into an organization, they may want to just shake things up for the purposes of shaking things up. When I was in the army, for example, a new lieutenant would come into battalion headquarters and write up a new warlock or SOP, not for any particular reason, but just so he could put in his stamp on things. So sometimes shaking things up will be pointless and bureaucratic, and sometimes it'll be useful for waking everyone up and shaking the cobwebs out and getting everybody to move forward. The next question to ask is, how do you prioritize what to look at first? One way to do it is through profiling. You figure out where most of your resources are going with respect to speed, time, money, materials, people, computer resources, usability, understandability, and any other quality or characteristic you can think of. One thing somebody pithily observed recently to me was that customers may not always be right, but they always have a point. If they're pointing something out or complaining about it, that's a problem they have. They might not know the reason for it, but their specific struggle may lead you to identify what the problem actually is. Does anyone have a clear picture of what's going on now? Does anyone? Um, so find out what's going on if you don't. And that's really what this whole presentation and series of questions about. We can talk about process mapping or characteristic mapping or discovery, but that's essentially the technical details of how you start doing your work. These are kind of abstract questions to ask, and if you can answer these, it'll clarify what's going on and hopefully what you need to do to move forward. And that's all I've got for this week. Brief and pithy. Let me know if you have any questions. Seeing none, Cliff.
They're speechless, Bob.
What's that?
They're speechless.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob, good presentation. This is Olivia. Just wanted to say that I like the fact that you pointed out that sometimes we just need to be aware that some managers bring about a change just because, just especially the new managers, just to put their stamp of approval on it. I've definitely witnessed that a couple of times, and it is quite helpful to just be aware that that could happen, because sometimes it can cause a lot of confusion and people don't even think about that at times. It's good to sort of keep that top of mind when dealing with a new manager.
Thanks. Yeah, that the more you've been around, the more you see what is driven by reality and what is driven by people. I've been guilty of the same thing. Um, so they have to trust stuff and learn just like everyone else.
Exactly. Thanks so much again.
Thank you. Cliff, do we have another presentation coming up in the evening a few days from now?
Yes, on August 13th. Or no, wait. August 13th is our next lunch and learn, but that's on August 17th.
Right.
Captivate your audience. That's one of our board members will be giving that.
Awesome.
If you guys aren't members of the meetup group, LinkedIn groups, and all that kind of stuff, I put the information in the chat here. Just let me know, reach out, and we'll get you in the channels.
Okay, have a great weekend, everyone.
Yep. Happy Friday.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Bob. You guys have a good one.